Welcome back everyone to theCUBE's live coverage here in Orlando, Florida for Qlik Connect 2025. I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE, with Bob Laliberte, CUBE analyst here for theCUBE Research. Got a great program story here. We're solved a big problem turning into energy. Charles Link is the Chief Data Analyst of the Reworld. Great story, we're going to get to dig into it. Drew Clarke, General Manager, EVP of the Data Business Unit at Qlik, CUBE alumni. Drew, great to see you. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, really good to be here again. You guys have a great show.
Charles, great to have you on. We were talking before about what you're doing. It's a phenomenal story, and it's innovative, it's relevant to the planet. Just love the mission. Drew, we'll start with you on Qlik. This is the show where the proof is in the pudding, as they say. Last year it was Answers kind of stole the show a little bit. You had the cloud merging. Now you got the open data formats as a service, Qlik Analytics Cloud, Answers plugging in.
It's all coming
Magic's
together.
coming together, so
Absolutely.
you guys got to be pretty pumped. Give us the update. And
yeah, so a year ago we talked about the vision of Qlik Talend Cloud, really bringing together the best of the data integration, data quality on the platform to be able to deliver analytical value. Well, we did that. We have over 100 customers using that platform already. Reworld is one of them. And today we announced 3 new areas. One was around data products with trust, with the confidence in that. Number 2 was around open data and really around the use of Iceberg as a way to handle high volumes, but to make it reusable in the platform. Number 3, agentic, how do you set up for an AI-driven kind of organization? And so we had a lot to cover today.
yeah, and there's a lot more coming too, as agents have to have the authority, the trust, reliability factored in. Also the cloud scales, great. Charles, you're here not only because it's a great story about sustainability, there's a technical angle too. You got a lot of data in there. Reworld, take a disposal problem, turned it into a energy saver, planet saver solution. Explain what you're working on, just set the table. What are you guys doing at a high level so people can understand the context?
All right, well, so the context is after you're done with reduce, reuse, recycle, there's always still going to be garbage. We actually will recover valuable assets out of that, whether it be energy, whether it be steam, whether it be metals. Even the ash is used for road bedding and the aggregate and all that, or for cement additives. But we also do alternative energy fuels, wastewater recovery, basically anything to keep things out of the landfill, to stop the world from being more polluted. We basically answer that problem.
And convert it into energy and to use, right? So energy generation, so all goodness.
Yeah.
So it's actually what people have been hoping to do.
And we make money in the process. It's a good business.
So you're selling, okay, talk about the technology angle, data, obviously with Qlik, you're not just a good story, sustainability, but there's a business story here.
Oh yeah, I mean, we started with Qlik, with Qlik and the Talend product back in 2019 when I got there. It was greenfield. They didn't have a data strategy. They didn't have anything. And so we partnered with the Talend solution at the time, now Qlik, and said, this is where I want to go. We need to bring together many disparate sources of data, and we were focused predominantly at first on the corporate data, but operational data is there too. We said we need an effective solution to do this in a way that allows it to be trusted and well managed. And we selected that suite of products because it was an entire suite. It allowed us to build our data supply chain from beginning to end. And it worked really well, and it scaled really well.
And intentional because it was greenfield.
Yeah.
And explain the difference, because you had a clean sheet of paper, basically.
We had a clean sheet of paper. Everybody was operating off of spreadsheets, or they had their database, It was a classic problem.
What was the North Star for you guys when you said, okay, we're going to take a shot at this, end to end? Well, share some philosophy.
The North Star was to ultimately create a common hub of information, not to replicate everything, but to have one place that could form the alloy of intelligence. And that's where data from these disparate systems, and the trick to doing that was that we had to create a model, a data model, not a database, but a data model that represented what Reworld defined things. What is a company? What is a person? What is a plant? What is a this? And we actually built that out, and we knew we weren't done the minute we created the first one. We purpose-built it as we went with each project. We didn't have this massive funding coming in. We had project budgets, and we said, instead of trying to say, hey, give me X million dollars and someday you're going to get this. I said, okay, I'm going to take 50,000 here, 50,000 there, and I'm going to do these projects, but we're going to do them this way with these tools, and everything was built towards moving down that road. I like to describe it as laying down the cobblestones on the road you're on, and at the end of each year, people would say, so how do you know? I said, turn around and look behind you. Yeah. Because you're walking down the road as you go. And it worked out really well.
Yeah, so along those lines, give us some idea of the impact putting that strategy in place had on your business. The processes that you were going through prior versus after, and now what even potentially what you're hoping to achieve as you continue to progress.
So we're in growth mode. And one of the things that was never possible before is to get together, what are the KPIs that actually measure how are we doing? And that sounds a little fundamental, but you got to start somewhere. And we really got together and pulled enough data from different sources to say, these are the KPIs, and we can actually measure them by bringing together all these data stores. And it's because our Talend Data Cloud solutions would allow us to reach into just about anything. I mean, I've joked with people repeatedly, if you've got data in that coffee cup, I'm going to hook up to it and get it out.
You're a data scrounger, so you're getting all that data. So talk about how you guys look at the business. So what's the business model? I mean, I'm trying to understand, how do you guys expand? You said you're in growth mode. What does that mean?
Well, we're acquiring companies to do other, because we're always taking the bounds of waste out a little bit further. Before it was just municipal trash and maybe some industrial, and then we had the materials processing. But now we're getting into alternative energy fuels for cement kilns, or we help with cleanup of oil waste in the tankers and things like that. It's all got to be cleaned up and put back to use somehow. We handle all that, but we've acquired companies that do that. And in doing so, each one of these companies is coming with their own sets of systems. And that makes things challenging, because every one of these systems, they can't fold the company in and start generating revenue if they hold up and say, look, we'll wait until we're done converting their ERPs into our ERPs, and we don't even know if we're going to stay on our ERP. So what we did is, with this common model and this framework we built with Talend, is that we created the snap-ons, and we bolt things in or tear them out as we need. And it's really made a big difference. We've been able to grow the company's revenue significantly. Okay. We've been able to now, we're predominantly focused this year on commercial data. We've been able to do things like understand where all of our overlaps are between all these business units we've acquired, to know and master that customer and understand where our cross-sell opportunities, what are our opportunities for growth.
Explain that snap-in, because a lot of companies that do acquisitions actually think it looks good on paper, but a lot of the integration stuff kind of fails or falters, or they look the other way and then it doesn't integrate.
Yeah.
What was your strategy specifically to make it all work without any kind of rewrites or?
Yeah, all the jobs we write, whether they be APIs or standard integration jobs, they're written to be reusable and configurable. So we will have maps for each one of these systems, and when we don't know what that system is, we'll work on the map. But that map's job is to talk to the standard code line. So we reuse those jobs over and over again. And that, I can't stress enough the impact of that, because we can move very, very quickly. I'll give you an example that was very good, but a little bit dated. We all remember this little thing called COVID, and we had a project where we wanted to track the contractors who were doing the work on our facilities, because we do these outages and all of that. And the original way to do their time, this was the first project I got when we got there, we used professional services to actually get us up and running, because we hadn't learned it yet. The contractors would put in the hands on scanners to register in. Well, little thing, can't touch anything anymore. So we had to, and they were all a flurry, saying, "Oh my God, the project's going to go off base. We're going to lose tens of millions of dollars. Nothing's going to happen." I said, "Wait, hold on. That's not what we built here. Yeah, you just have to put in different scanners. All I need to do is do a new map. Everything else works." I'm like, oh. So it's just a matter of figuring out, how do I talk to this new vendor?
So front end, you change the front end because you had the map.
Yeah.
It just plugs in, then the data goes in.
And it just snapped in, and that's the strategy we followed over and over and over again that allows us to be very fast. And we do this, our operating budget's pretty tiny. If you consider software licensing, everything for our BI and everything, our operating budget's under $3 million a year. Yeah. And that's staff, employees, bonus, that's everything, all in. We're very small, and yet we're pulling off this, and it's the tool set that helps it.
So Charles, I come from a strategy M&A background, so I'm fascinated on just the integration side of the house. What would you say when you're looking at a data system, there's a new acquisition comes in, where you go, that one's going to be easy or hard?
Yeah.
Right? For me, it was always the general ledger.
Yeah.
Right? And the general ledger is the source of truth for that acquired company. Don't really want to mess with it, but you got to get that integrated on the financials. What is it for you?
So part of our trick was in that data model, we have things that basically provide universal maps. And we would then map, and the hard part was mapping that chart of accounts. Once you understood what that map was, the other trick is to maintain a way to get back to it. Because oftentimes the financial systems would take two and mash them into one or more, and you can't get to the details where you can actually do something to manage the outcomes, and that wasn't acceptable. So what we did was we kept track of the DNA that said, yes, you're going to go here in combined form, but I'm going to be able to basically still take the red out of the Kool-Aid. When you want to drill in, I'll tell you why.
To get back. Yeah.
And we say maps, well, describe what a map is again, because is it like an accounting, financial map, or architecture map, or both?
Well, actually, it's both, but in this case, it was basically just an accounting map. But it's providing a level of control in DNA that will let me get from rolled up numbers back to detailed numbers. Because the way they traditionally did it is they would mash up in an export the accounts for load into our primary financial system. And by the time they did that mashup, it was taken out of the system. There was no walk back. So you couldn't say, why was your cost higher? Because you didn't know if it was one of 3, 4, 5 different charts of accounts.
So today, I was going to ask another question. Today I announced our support for Iceberg, open data, high volume going in. You were sharing earlier about IoT data, so as the trucks come on to scale, and that's where you get your profitability and how you're going to run the SSR.
That's the specified steam rate. That's just the production.
Right, as you get into tons of data. What do you think about IoT data, and are you exploring Iceberg at all?
Yes, actually, we are looking at Iceberg, and I love the new announcements, because until those announcements come out, there's many things we're doing to build for ourselves. And we don't want to build for ourselves. We're a small crew, but we will. But the upside is small builds we've done for ourselves prove the value, so that when there's a product out there, I don't have to fight to go get the licensing for that. They say, okay, we've proved it works, now you want to scale. Here's your ROI. There's no more arguments, it's done. So the Iceberg is great, because that's going to help with our 26 roadmap, where we're bringing all the SCADA data into a hub, because we want to create a digital twin of all of our facilities. Each one of them is built differently, and I need all that data to understand how they would respond when I decide that I want to trigger an event. And I want to say, look, I want to grow my EBITDA, so what do I need? Because one facility's operation is going to be totally different than the other. I need all that data in a place where I can get to it cost effectively and at scale, but also to test. When I've got a model, I can't test on a live facility. I need a digital twin feeding off that data to say, this is how it would really behave in the real world with stuff that's streaming.
And Charles, quick question for you. I mean, now that you've got the foundation in place, or you're getting the foundation in place for all the data, what are your thoughts on moving forward with AI, agentic AI? Do you look at that as a welcome, or?
Absolutely. Okay. We've been working. I've had work going on in my shop for AI for 3 years now, and we actually have our own AI entity we stood up. It's the first one we're bringing up, and this is why I was extra glad you had a whole framework around agentic AI, because we were building our own to be a sales assistant. It's basically somebody who's going to go out and take a lead, do all the research that a person would have to do before they make the call, and do it better. One of our chief commercial officers came to me and said, look, my sales guys are spending at least an hour before they'll even make a phone call on a lead. So they're getting through 4 or 5 a day, and we need to grow. And I said, okay. He said, what can you do with AI? I said, we could have AI be their assistant and take that lead's information and go out and get all the demographics about it, find out if we're doing any business with them or their corporate family, gather up what similar companies are doing, and prepare an entire dossier of things to talk about, and say, look, we've researched what your sustainability story is, we've researched what you're trying to do, and here's how to sell the product. And that's where agentic AI, so we prove the value with what we're building, but to have something, we don't have the scale to scale.
Yeah.
So we need products that do that.
So you're a consumer of AI.
We're a
So
consumer and a creator.
Yeah, so you create the proof of concept.
Yeah.
Got the data. Small team. Drew, this is a use case that's consistent in the AI world. He's essentially saying they're punching way above their weight class because they're got leverage in their operations. The way they design their data, they got massive operating leverage, so a small team could do a lot.
Well, and that's exactly what's exciting about you, Charles, and Reworld, is what you've been able to accomplish. And you're a small team, but highly effective.
Well, and
and,
the tools and the partnership is really where it's at. Yeah. I mean, if we didn't have the right tools, we just can't, we just can't do it. And and the partnership, because it's more than the software, because I always say it's the Ford, Ram, Chevy discussion. Everybody's got some feature function they're always coming out with, but it's that actual partnership and the engagement from the people at Qlik that made the difference, I would say. That's why we're not going to anybody else for these types of solutions.
Give an example of why that worked and how important it was, the partnership.
Well, if you don't mind an older story, I'll tell you the one that really sold me on the partnership. So I'm a repeat customer. I was the CDO for AIG Retirement Services, and you'll know AIG from the collapse and all of that. So we had to do CCAR reporting, and a lot of the stress models, the stress testing, that data was on our mainframes, and we were having one heck of a time because of the recursive data structures doing this. And Talend at the time said, "Look, it's possible. It works. We're telling you." And we said, "We cannot seem to make it work." And the Talend at the time, now Qlik, came to us and said, "Look, we're going to bring, instead of making this a customer support issue, we're going to bring professional services to bear. If it turns out that there was a flaw in the software, you don't pay anything. If it turns out that, it was you guys, you'll pay the bill." And I was like, "Okay, great, because we have $500 million on the table. If we don't pass this test, they shut us down for $500 million. That's a big problem." Yeah. And it turned out it was kind of there's one small patch, but the rest was us. And it was like, it didn't matter. At the time they were like, "You know what, it's too small. We're not going to worry about charging." I said, "Nope, give me the bill. You just saved me $500 million in business. And it was a $23,000 bill. I'll write you a personal check on that one." But it's always been that way. Anytime we needed something, we weren't the biggest customer always, and especially at Reworld, we're not the biggest, but they engage and they care and they see what we're doing, and it's a partnership to drive that message forward.
That's awesome, and I love that story because you could quantify that example. You knew what the consequences were.
Yeah.
You could quantify it, so it's important.
Yeah, and it's been that way all along. I mean, a number of the Qlik people have been to our facilities.
Yeah.
They actually go see our sites, and then they're like, "Now we truly understand the scale of what you all are doing."
Yeah. Well, how do I get an invitation to one of your sites?
Consider yourself invited. When are you in New Jersey?
I'm not too far away. I'm up in Boston.
Come on down to New Jersey. I will get you into our sites.
All right.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic
Great
tour.
testimonial. This is, again, the vibe of the show. The meat is on the bone, as they say, with the proof points.
That's right.
Strategy last year, Answers was on the scene. I was saying it stole the show last year because it's just getting out there, but people wanted it. You could feel the energy. Now you're delivering on it, the team, great stuff, and again, more success like this. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, and we're really excited. And Charles, it's been a great partnership, and
it is.
I'm going to get down and I want to see one of these.
Please, you've got to see it. It's phenomenal.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I love the co-hosting. Come on theCUBE. We definitely got some openings for you. Great job. Good to see you. CUBE alumni, he knows the drill. I'm John Furrier here at theCUBE, but Bob Laliberte. We'll be right back after this short break.